The committee room fell into silence as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett took her place at the podium. Her voice rang out steady and clear, carrying the weight of months of preparation as she began presenting her evidence on voting rights violations. For a moment, the hearing felt routine, even ordinary. But Texas Senator Ted Cruz had other plans. Within seconds of her opening statement, he leaned forward, his trademark smirk already forming, and cut in with a sharp point of order. It was classic Cruz, calculated interruption, designed to throw her off balance. The room's attention shifted immediately. He had built his career on moments like this, using procedure as a weapon, dominating with his courtroom voice, steamrolling opponents before they found their rhythm. And this time, his target was a freshman congresswoman from Texas who, in his mind, could be easily dismantled. What Cruz didn't know was that Jasmine Crockett had been waiting for this exact fight her entire career. In the first 10 minutes, Cruz interrupted her 6 separate times, each more aggressive than the last. He questioned her legal precedents, dismissed her data, objected to her characterization of voter intimidation, and accused her of supporting unconstitutional overreach. It was harassment dressed up as oversight, the kind of performance Cruz's supporters adored and his critics knew all too well. But Crockett was no ordinary witness. Years of civil rights work had taught her to face hostile judges and opposing counsel who thrived on intimidation. She recognized Cruz's pattern, the precision of his interruptions, the way he relied on rhetorical attacks rather than substance. He wasn't engaging with her arguments. He was following a script. Her jaw tightened, but her voice stayed calm. She deflected each attack, offering citations, peer-reviewed data, and sworn affidavits. The more composed she remained, the more Cruz's frustration showed. And then came his 7th interruption. Slamming his hand on the table, Cruz accused her of turning the hearing into partisan theater. The room erupted. Democrats protested. Republicans shifted uncomfortably. The chairman called for order. And through it all, Crockett stood quietly, her papers in hand, her face unreadable. When silence finally returned, she set down her prepared remarks and looked directly at Cruz. Her voice, calm but commanding, cut through the air. "Senator Cruz, with all due respect, you've interrupted me 6 times in 10 minutes. I believe it's time you learn what the word respect actually means." The chamber froze. For the first time, Cruz himself had been interrupted. His mouth hung open, stunned, the smirk wiped from his face. Crockett seized the moment. "You've mentioned election security 6 times in your interruptions," she continued. "So, let me ask you directly. Can you provide this committee with evidence of voter fraud in Texas that would justify closing polling places in minority communities?" Cruz stumbled. He reached for talking points, vague references, general claims. But she pressed again, sharper this time. "I asked for evidence, not talking points. Do you have specific data?" He didn't. "So that's a no," Crockett said firmly. "You don't have evidence of fraud. You've interrupted me repeatedly to challenge evidence you haven't reviewed while offering none of your own." The dynamic of the hearing shifted instantly. Cruz, once in control, was now exposed. Reporters leaned forward. Staffers scribbled furiously. The audience held its breath as Crockett pivoted, addressing the entire committee. "For the last 10 minutes, I've been interrupted by someone who claims to care about accuracy and evidence, yet he has none of his own to provide. This isn't oversight. This is performance." Cruz tried to recover, but Crockett shut him down again. "Senator, you've had 6 chances. Now it's time to listen." What followed was a masterclass in political combat. She went point by point through his interruptions, slamming documents down on the table, case law, peer-reviewed studies, sworn testimonies. Each thud echoed as proof against his empty objections. Finally, she delivered her knockout blow. From a folder, she produced data from Cruz's own 2018 re-election campaign. His campaign, she revealed, had relied heavily on early voting, mail-in ballots, and extended polling hours. The very methods he now decried as security risks. Reading the numbers aloud, Crockett forced Cruz to confront his own hypocrisy. Which is it, Senator? Were the methods that helped elect you legitimate or fraudulent? You can't have it both ways. The silence was deafening. Cruz had no answer. Senator, Crockett said, her voice cutting like steel, you've interrupted me 6 times today. But your 7th attempt just proved my point better than I ever could. When politicians attack voting rights while relying on them for their own elections, that's not constitutional principle. That's hypocrisy. Applause erupted from the Democratic side. Even some Republicans looked uneasy. Cruz sat back in, his chair, face flushed, smirk gone. He had been dismantled not by a senior statesman, but by a freshman congresswoman who turned his own tactics against him. The fallout was immediate. As the committee recessed, clips of the exchange hit social. Media, within minutes. Hashtags like Crockett destroys Cruz and 6 interruptions trended worldwide. Cruz's stunned face became a meme. The line, "Senator, you've had your 6 chances," went viral, shared by millions as a rallying cry against political bullying. Cable news producers cut segments before the hearing even ended. Political reporters scrambled to write leads. Progressive groups seized the moment, cutting ads and launching fundraising campaigns around Crockett's takedown. Donations surged. Invitations poured in for Crockett to speak at rallies, conferences, and national interviews. Meanwhile, Cruz struggled to control the damage. His team claimed he'd been making important constitutional points, but the video spoke louder than any press release. Even conservative commentators criticized his performance, calling it arrogant and unprepared. The hearing's ripple effects spread quickly. Law schools studied it as a lesson in cross-examination. Debate teams analyzed Crockett's composure under fire. Women in politics cited her as proof that preparation and principle could dismantle condescension and intimidation. Her performance became a template for handling hostile questioning. The legislation itself gained unexpected momentum. Crockett's evidence-based approach contrasted so sharply with Cruz's theater that undecided members swung in favor. The bill moved forward with new strength, and voting rights advocates celebrated a breakthrough few had thought possible. Beyond policy, the confrontation marked a cultural turning point. It showed that the old guard's reliance on bluster and bullying could be defeated by preparation and facts. It showed younger politicians how to handle intimidation. It reminded voters that respect and evidence still mattered. For Cruz, the damage lingered. Polling showed dips in support, particularly among suburban voters tired of political gamesmanship. For Crockett, it was the beginning of a national profile. Overnight, she became a symbol of a new generation of leadership, calm under pressure, sharp with facts, fearless in the face of bluster. And somewhere in Texas, voters were left with an image burned into memory. Ted Cruz, silenced and exposed, staring across a committee table at the woman who turned his 7th interruption into the moment that changed everything.